What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Rooster's What Ifs. This is part 4 of What If Naruto Was a Genius of Hard Work. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that like button as it helps with the algorithm. And without wasting any more time, let's begin. Chapter 3. Welcome home. Naruto blinked reflexively as the sun glinted off polished steel. The blonde lighter traced his fingers along the blade's edge, silently admiring the craftsmanship that was easily visible. The 12-year-old was no blade expert, but he knew quality when he saw it. The balance was perfect, the steel was flawless, and the whole sword seemed to resonate efficiency, right down to the matte black hand guard and grip. The Chunin made a note to thank Hayate for his gift again. It wasn't the first time the blonde had admired the ninjutsu that Naoto Jonin had given him, and didn't think it would be the last. Naruto sentiently appreciated the gesture, though he would appreciate it more if the man would bother to grace Naruto with his presence. They had agreed to meet outside the Shinobi Archive at 11. It was now a quarter to 12. Thoughts involuntarily drifting towards recollections of another tardy shinobi. Naruto shifted his gaze to the archive and shook his head with a sigh. He preferred the traditional red and white that the archive was supposed to be painted, the colors of Konoha, rather than the predominantly orange look that it now sported. It, like so many other respectable establishments, had fallen prey to a prank of Sarutobi Konohamaru. Naruto wondered what the archive, or the people in it, had done to draw the boy's ire. It was like the scarf-wearing academy student frequented the building. The boy was far too focused on childish pursuits like the one in front of him, rather than furthering his skills as a shinobi. What a waste, the Chunin thought uncharitably, a sneer now marring his features. The fact that the boy wasted his time with childish pranks rather than utilizing his numerous resources at his disposal to develop his skills was borderline disgusting. There likely wasn't a soul in the village that hadn't had the academy student proclaim his dream to become Hokage. And it wasn't like the boy had no shot. Talent ran in his veins. The young Sarutobi possessed a pedigree that was nearly unmatched. Being the son of the respectable Jonin, Sarutobi Ren had been killed in the Kyuubi attack, and the grandson of the Saidam Hokage. On top of it all, Konohamaru had Tokubetsu Jonin following his every move, being paid to teach the brat how to become a shinobi. Naruto could only wonder at how skilled he might be if he had the same resources at his disposal as the young child, and held the young Sarutobi in disdain at his apparent lack of skill. By Mizuki's count, one of the boy's Chunin instructors, the brat was the class dog, the dead last. It was a disgrace to both the third Hokage and Konoha as a whole that the boy was so unskilled. Naruto at least contented himself with the knowledge that about half of the village seemed to agree with him in his assessment of the boy. The brat was the victim of more than his half share of harsh glares and sneers, though no more outward signs of distaste. Looking back, Naruto mused that it was rather odd. A great many people, about half of the village, seemed to give the young Sarutobi hard looks, a figure that made little sense given to who the boy was. As the grandson of the third Hokage, one of Konoha's greatest heroes, it would make sense for the boy to receive looks of admiration and respect, or not glares bordering on outright hatred. The brat couldn't have pranked all people who glared at him. Even if he had, the pranks, while being both childish and a waste of time, were relatively harmless. Some were even amusing. Naruto smirked slightly as he remembered being a witness to a shopkeeper receiving a pain-filled balloon to his face, sputtering in indignation as the whiskered culprit bounded off in peals of laughter. Naruto, like so many others, had found himself rather unwilling at the helpless man's plight. The harsh treatment from the villagers, especially as it wasn't all villagers, only added to the mystery that was Sarutobi Konohamaru, a mystery that Naruto had no real need or want to crack it. The blonde 12-year-old, his birthday had passed in the past 4 months since he visited the third Hokage, was perfectly content to allow the bratty academy student to wallow in his own ineptitude without sparing the boy a thought. Naruto would just focus on his own goals, as he always had. Goals, he thought. That seemed more manageable than ever. No matter how much the blonde attempted to downplay his own skills, humility being an important trait in a shinobi, it was becoming more and more apparent that he was becoming a standout among Konoha's shinobi ranks. Among the Chunin at least. It was quite contrary to the hard work, humble shinobi that he had always envisioned himself as being. The longer he was in the shinobi corps, the more apparent it became that he was the departure from the norm, rather than the rule. His age was the first indicator, as he was easily the youngest Chunin in the corps, but it went even further than that. The more missions he ran with various Chunin, the more it became harder to ignore the difference between himself and his fellow shinobi. Where others remained content with their own skill, he was constantly improving. Where others became lazy on simpler missions, he remained a consummate professional. That wasn't to say that there weren't others who shared his mindset in regards to their careers. Far from it, in fact. He had new training partners almost weekly these days, as he met more shinobi wanting to advance their skills with someone on par or better than them. But even among them, he stood out. Where they struggled, he powered through. Where they gave up, he persevered, and it showed. More and more people seem to be both recognize and respect the young shinobi Chunin these days. Helped along no small part by his rather well-publicized victory over the Iowa Nin. Contrary to his earlier days in the corps, marked by a lack of acknowledgement and respect for many, first as a field genin and as a student of the reserve program, he was now receiving acknowledgement from more people than he could remember. People were even throwing the word genius around, according to both Mizuki and Hayate. The point was accentuated perfectly as a passing Jonin nodded in Naruto's direction with a smile. The blonde smiled back hesitantly, neither knowing nor recognizing the man. It was even beginning to get a little awkward for the 12-year-old, as he found himself returning greetings from random people, shinobi and civilians alike, that he didn't know. He had even seen a few girls around his age, some of them rather pretty, pointing and giggling in his direction. Talk about weird. Hell, it wasn't even half bad. The acknowledgement would only help him in his quest for respect, and having people know his name would make finding someone to settle down with easier, right? Naruto certainly hoped so. He was a fighter, not a lover. The acknowledgement was serving to help him advance in the ranks as well, as illustrated by the Anbu's offer to join the elite force. Becoming an Anbu would only enhance his prestige, saying nothing about his skills, and he intended to make the most of his future tour of duty. Gaining the coveted position of Taicho was no easy feat, but it was necessary for Naruto's goal, as becoming a captain in the Hokage Shinobi unit guaranteed him the rank of Jonin upon his exit. It was never a dream in his mind, but an eventuality. I don't dream, I do, were the words he lived by. It was his ninja way. Naruto-kan, a voice crowed from nearby, shaking the blonde from his thoughts. Turning his head, he spied Hayate making his way over, an attractive purple woman in tow. He noted with satisfaction that the man was indeed carrying his ninja-ken, evident that their day's sparring session was still on schedule. Yo, Hayate, how are you holding up? It was a reasonable question, as the Tokubetsu Jonin had been confined to the hospital for the better part of the last 4 months, due in large part of the intimate injuries suffered from the fight against the Iowa Jonin. The man smiled, his pleasant nature showing though. Not too bad, Naruto. Let me introduce you to Yuzuki Yuga. He cut off abruptly as a heckling cough forced its way to his mouth. He regained his composure quickly, not seeming perturbed by the outburst at all. Excuse me, my girlfriend, he finished with a smile and a gesture toward the purple-haired woman. Naruto turned his attention to the woman, a kunoichi if the grace of her motions meant anything. While wincing internally, his own injuries to the chakra coils and tenketsu had been bad, requiring a week of Fuinjutsu assisted healing plus a month of recovery time. But Hayate had been far worse. Genma's initial assumption of Hayate's ribs had been spot on, though more severe than the man had imagined. The hammer blow Hayate had received from the Iowa Jonin had shattered all the ribs on the right side of his body, the pieces puncturing his right lung. While normally not a large problem for a trained shinobi man, the team had to return from river country and while they did so in record time, the shattered remains of Hayate's ribs had settled in his lung. The medics had been able to both remove the pieces and rebuild the lung, both requiring extensive medical ninjutsu. But the bone shrapnel had left extensive scarring, permanently hindering Hayate's breathing. It almost left him with an almost perpetual cough. The now sickly-looking man had been promoted to Tokubetsu Jonin for his service in the mission, as had Genma, much to Naruto's consternation. He had made the kills and yet he was still a chunin, but his career was now distinctly limited in a scope. Proper breathing was essential for a shinobi, and Hayate's cough would give him away to even the most demoted genin. "Pleasure to make your acquaintance, Yuzuki-san," Naruto said with a small bow, forcibly pulling himself from his thought so to properly greet his new acquaintance. "Well met, Uzumaki-san. I've heard so much about you and about your exploits." Yuga regarded the blonde with what he gathered to be a detached interest. Her tone polite yet rather flat, her emotions well guarded, indicating emotional control beyond a normal shinobi or kunoichi. Naruto's eyes immediately flickered to her right shoulder, exposed as it was in her black tank top, looking for a distinctive swell present on the shoulders of all Enbu members. Seeing none, his eyes narrowed slightly as his gaze met her violet eyes once more. Her expression hadn't changed, but her eyes glimmered with what looked to be respect to the blonde. The slight expression caught by his keen observation, a necessary trait for a genjutsu user. Naruto nodded as his suspicions were confirmed by all slight inclination of Yuga's head. "Have you? Nothing bad, I hope?" he asked with a small, light-hearted smirk. The pretty woman shook her head in the negative. "Nothing of that sort, though the gossips have been churning out thousands of rumors." Naruto grimaced lightly. Konoha's gossip network was infamous, for being able to transport a rumor from one side of the great village to the other side in an hour. The facts of the original were sure to not match the facts of the finished product in the slightest. Hayate bucked a laugh, addressing Naruto after the resulting cough fit resolved itself. "I've heard everything from you being the reincarnation of the fourth Hokage to being the man's illegitimate love child." Naruto scratched the back of his head in a sheepish gesture. Masking his inner annoyance, he knew quite well that he shared a similar hairstyle to the legendary Hokage, especially as he started to grow it out some. But his face was much less angular than the fourth Hokage's, and his eyes a lighter shade of blue. He had done extensive research into the identity of his father, and the Yodime had come up due to the fact that they shared looks. He hadn't been able to find anything of use in regard of his father's identity, and he had accepted that he would probably never know who the man was. That was just fine in Naruto's mind, as he didn't ever want to have to overlap the image of one of the greatest heroes with the simmering anger he held towards his father, whoever he was. The man had all but abandoned his mother to Naruto's knowledge, and Naruto held no wishes to tarnish the image of the great Hokage in his own mind. Besides, simply assuming that he was the son of Namikaze Minato was more than a little presumptuous, especially as the notion was founded solely upon their shared hairstyle and similar eye color. "Really now?" Naruto asked. "People actually say that?" It was annoying and mildly embarrassing to boot. Yuga nodded sagely, her eyes once again belaying her true emotions. She was amused. "Indeed, Naruto-san. I've even heard talk of the third Hokage selecting you as the fifth Hokage." Naruto's expression changed into one of frank disbelief. If the previous rumors had been ridiculous, that was nothing short of downright stupid. "What? Did you hear that from an academy student or something? Who knows how well informed they are?" Naruto said, his expression deadpan. His sarcasm brought about a hearty chuckle from Hayate, followed immediately by more coughs, and even Yuga couldn't resist a small smile. "That they are," the special Jonin laughed. "But enough of that, shouldn't we be getting to the actual purpose behind this little rendezvous?" The blonde 12-year-old raised his hand. "Don't look at me. I've been waiting for you to show up for about 10 minutes now," the blonde said, but with no real irritation in his voice. "Hey, sorry about that, Naruto, but we were delayed," Hayate finished lamely, eyes flickering to his girlfriend. Yuga either didn't notice or more likely didn't care about the small gesture. Naruto nodded in acceptance of the point. Given that the purple-haired Enbu member hadn't been a part of their original plans, the blonde deduced that she had insisted on coming along, most likely to ensure that nothing bad happened to her boyfriend. Naruto's regard to the Kunoichi increased. According to snippets from conversation before the mission, the two had only just started dating. The fact that the Kunoichi had stuck with Hayate through the entire ordeal spoke well of her character. Even so, we almost missed you. You blend in very well, Naruto-kan. Hayate spoke with a small snicker. The blonde looked down at himself, taking in the sight of his orange muscle t-shirt and black pants, before turning to look at the eye-carved wall he was leaning against. The shades of orange were the same. Blushing slightly at the quip, Naruto quickly moved to retake control of the situation. Huh? Didn't notice. Shall we get this show on the road then? At his companion's nods of assent, he turned on his heel and began to trek to one of the training grounds, a shinobi and Kunoichi in his wake. Naruto grunted as his arm strained to block the overhead stab from Hayate. It was so humiliating and impressive that the man could still perform such overpowering attacks so soon after he had left the tender care of Konoha's medic center. The man had been out for less than a month. This was his first day back after completing the required recovery period, and he was slapping Naruto around like a red-headed stepchild. The rust was showing though on the Tokubetsu Jonin, however, as is showcased by the fact that Naruto had actually managed to create a few small openings in the man's guard. The blonde had even nicked Hayate once, barely drawing blood on the man's shoulder. It's absolutely ridiculous, the blonde thought self-depreciatingly, ducking under a neck-high slash and attempting to press his advantage with a deft stab at Hayate's chest. A swift parry was all he got in return, as the expert swordsman turned away his attack with absurd ease. The blonde was spun away from the Tokubetsu Jonin as the parry turned into a move that Naruto's used Naruto's body weight and momentum against him. Naruto stumbled as Hayate gracefully stepped around his desperate slash, wincing as the vastly more skilled ninja tapped his right shoulder with the flat side of his ninja ken. Dead again, was Naruto's thought. Leaping back to create space, Naruto brought his ninjutsu to the ready position, held parallel to his body as his hands were at his waist height. Shifting his weight slightly so that his weight was on his back leg, rather than being perfectly centered, the blonde adjusted his grip on the blade, changing to a reverse grip and positioning his blade so that it ran parallel to his arm, almost behind him. Without warning, Naruto sprang forward, closing the distance between Hayate and himself faster than the old man could blink. The Kenjutsu master's reflexes saved him, however, and he blocked the incoming overhand strike with his ninja ken. Having pushed the blonde back, he wasn't prepared for Naruto to drop and attempt to leg sweep his legs. Hayate jumped over the sweep, but his tactical advantage was lost as Naruto pressed forward once more. Using a series of sweeping backhand strikes, Naruto brutally attacked the older man's guard, opting to overwhelm his superior with speed and unrelenting power, rather than his usual precision. The blonde extended his blade to Hayate's head in a sweeping slash that would have him brained the man. When it was blocked immediately, Naruto moved to strike at the Kenjutsu master's ankle, but Hayate deftly hopped over the strike. The 12-year-old had overextended himself with the low strike and was unprepared to block Hayate's retaliatory stab. Naruto managed to avoid being skewered by leaning back, but he was forced to backflip away to regain his balance. Just as he landed, Hayate was in his face once again, and the blonde was forced to bring his ninjutsu to bear in a fast block as Hayate struck at his exposed chest. The older shinobi leaned back for a split second, and Naruto winced in preparation for what he knew was coming next. Hayate closed the gap between the two shinobi in an instant, though not quite as fast as Naruto's earlier charge, and slashed low. When it was blocked hastily, he crashed down and stepped upward. Naruto blocked sloppily, and was wholly unprepared for Hayate to knock his hand upward, disarming him of his ninjutsu, and place his own ninja ken at his neck. Fudoha no Mai, the dance of the floating leaf, one of Konoha's few kenjutsu dances, was actually created by the man poised to kill Naruto when he was a newly minted genin. The dance was simple in nature, had proved itself effective in battle, and had cemented Hayate's place in the genius book when it came to kenjutsu. The dance was now necessary for all Anbu entrants to learn, having displayed its effectiveness in shinobi combat. Pulling his blade from Naruto's neck, Hayate stepped back and took a deep breath, devolving into a small coughing fit as Naruto moved to pick up his ninjutsu. The blonde moved to a nearby tree and popped down unceremoniously in the shade. He watched tiredly as Yugao, who had been observing from above, moved to Hayate's side and gently helped him over, an arm draped over his shoulder. "You alright?" the blonde asked in concern, making room for the couple to sit beside him against the tall tree. Hayate nodded in response, swiftly regaining his composure after his coughs had subsided. "Yeah, I'll be fine. Has it been that bad since you got out?" The Tokubetsu Jonin's hair moved with his head as he shook in the negative, inadvertently hitting Yugao in the face. "No, just when I strain myself. It's usually pretty manageable." Naruto winced slightly when he caught the underlying sadness in the man's word. The man knew that his career was going to be severely limited from here on out, if not outright ended due to medical reason. "Well, that's good to hear. I'd hate to have to know that I was beaten by a total cripple." Naruto's attempt to lighten the mood fell mostly flat, as Hayate managed only a weak chuckle, and Yuga failed to react entirely. "I wouldn't worry about it, Naruto-kan. I have years of practice and experience on you, and you get better each time you spar." Hayate smiled proudly at his student, his former melancholy forgotten. "Hayate-kan is correct, Naruto-sen." Yuga surprised the blonde by speaking up. "Kenjutsu is an art that is both extensive and exact. It takes years of practice to become truly proficient, even more so to be considered a master. The progress we've made in under a year is staggering." Naruto blushed at the praise, not quite sure how to handle it. Thanks, I guess." Regaining his composure, he continued, "It's still frustrating though. Kenjutsu is a requirement for Anbu, and I only have 2 more months before I start in the corps." The blonde shook his head ruefully. "I just hope that I'm good enough to make the grade." The fear of failing was one of the few things Naruto had truly never conquered. He merely pushed it back to the back of his mind in the wake of his overwhelming determination and drive to succeed. He was surprised to see Yuga scoff none too politely at his statement, the expression of the emotion seeming very out of place on the normally composed Kunoichi. You've no need to worry, Naruto-sen. The Kenjutsu requirement for Anbu is nothing short of pathetic. It is suggested that the new recruits know the basic of the art upon entrance, but not truly required. In fact, most veteran Anbu never truly pursue the art, as they find it too time-consuming and often unnecessary. Hayate nodded alongside his girlfriend. "She's right, Naruto. Yuga is the departure from the norm in Anbu, not the opposite. I'd reckon that you more than make the grade right now, not to say where you'll be in 2 months. Time, having trained with a true master like me." The sickly man puffed out his chest in mock pompousness at his last statement, earning a chuckle from Naruto and a light slap on the arm from Yuga. "Thanks, guys," Naruto said. His fears were assuaged for the moment. "I suppose I just feel a little pressure to get good at this stuff. You know how I get." Hayate nodded once more. "Aye, but remember, Naruto, it's not easy to be good at everything. It's why most ninjas tend to branch out and specialize when they get to tuning." It was true, most ninjas found one area of the ninja arts they were good at, and devoted almost all their time to mastering that one aspect. Not many ninja wanted to devote their time of becoming truly proficient in all the ninja arts, though some tried. The most famous example was Konoha's sitting Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. The man was known throughout the Elemental Nation not simply for his mastery of all Konoha's ninjutsu, but for his total mastery of all the aspects of shinobi combat. From Kenjutsu to Fuenjutsu, the third Hokage had mastered it all of it. The man deserved to be praised around the whole continent, in Naruto's estimation. Naruto found himself attempting to emulate the man and had undertaken the endless hours of training that it required. As a result, Naruto became a near perfectionist when it came to mastering new techniques, be they Kenjutsu forms, Taijutsu strikes, or illusions. Naruto nodded as Hayate piped up once again. You've gotten faster, you almost had me with that one charge back there. Yeah, I've been trying to get less reliant on Shanshin by getting faster the old-fashioned way. I'm not looking for a repeat hospital trip. After the damage Naruto had done to his internal chakra network, he had come to the conclusion that he had to stop relying on chakra-enhanced speed, at least until he found a way to make the Shanshin less strenuous on the body. Good idea, it'll help you in the long run, as being faster without chakra only makes you faster with chakra. Now, Yuga's voice was muffled slightly due to the head position on Hayate's shoulder. It had fallen there during the conversation, and neither party seemed to object. Hayate had even started idly playing with Yuga's violet hair. Yep, that's the idea. That's all I've really been doing these past few months, along with trying to build up my reserves and guard duty. Naruto shuddered as he remembered the long hours he spent atop the Great Wall, doing nothing but pacing back and forth while keeping a lookout for non-approaching threats that were non-existent. Naruto noticed with some small consternation and a little bit of envy that the couple was barely paying him any mind now, being lost in their own little world. He held in disgusted grimace as Hayate began planting light kisses on top of Yuga's head. Taking that as his cue to get the hell out of there, he made his goodbyes quickly and beat a hasty retreat to the village, muttering all the while about impolite ninja who should check their romantic impulses in public. Time skip. This is just so boring. The Senbon chewing Tokubetsu Johnny and whined. It was pathetic, in Naruto's opinion. It's still not as bad as guard duty. You've got no reason to complain, Naruto retorted, irritably. Genma had done nothing but gripe the whole time the two had been on border patrol, and Naruto was sick of the non-stop whining. At least here the scenery changes a little bit. The older man gave a non-committal grunt before smirking at Naruto. That's right, you're still a chunin. The lazy man laughed. Oh, I remembered world duty, man. The things that happen out there. Did I ever tell you about the time me and Izumo got into it? Well, you see, this was a while back, and both of us were trying to get with Kurenai. A babe that she is. Naruto tuned out the older man's story, having had 1,000 similar ones in the last 4 months, and instead focused on keeping his footing while leaping from tree branch to tree branch. They were just inside the border between Fire Country and Grass Country, and besides the passing trees, there wasn't all that much to look at. Still better than world duty. Glancing at Genma from the corner of his eye, he felt a small smile tug at his lips at the older man's action. Aside from acknowledgement he was now receiving from the general populace, the changed relationship dynamic between Genma and himself was the best thing that came from the ordeal of the mission to River Country. While the two would never be the best of friends, Genma and Naruto had come to a mutual understanding and now had a tangible respect for each other. It was respect formed between comrades in the heat of battle, the respect that comes from knowing that the other had your back, no matter what. Genma respected Naruto for his combat prowess and his ability to think on the fly, while Naruto found that Genma hid a calculating and capable mind behind his lazy exterior. The seemingly endless stories about the good old days that Genma routinely recounted was that Genma routinely recounted were merely a quirk of his personality, one that Naruto had never seen back on Team Raido. Naruto suspected that it was his way of coping with the harsh life of a shinobi. All shinobi had their quirks. Most of them developed to help cope with the harsh reality that they lived. Kakashi Harake was infamous of his reading of porn at all hours of the day. Genma constantly drowned himself in memories of the past, and while he had been a shinobi for less time, Naruto buried himself in training so he wouldn't have to think. It was an unfortunate fact of the shinobi lifestyle, but it was a necessary evil. His senses straining, Naruto felt the telltale signs of incoming chakra presences. Genma, on your 3. Stopping his story, Genma halted on the nearest tree branch and closed his eyes in concentration. I got him. 3 incoming, 1 big, 2 small. While not a true sensory type ninja, Genma had a very well developed sense of chakra, to the point where he could distinguish individuals if there weren't too many. Naruto frowned in contemplation. Genin team. The older shinobi shrugged. Though Naruto could tell he was intrigued behind the uncaring action. They'd have to have lost a member somehow, but they're not coming in fast. Standard procedure? Yeah, Genma nodded curtly. There was no point in taking any chances. You got any warning shots? Naruto asked. The Tokubetsu Jonin nodded. Be in position to flank them. If this goes pear-shaped. Got it. Moving to the position of a higher tree branch slightly adjacent to Genma, Naruto palmed a kunai. It was likely just a Genin team, but a ninja who took unnecessary chances ended up dead before long. In the wake of river country, neither of the two were about to get careless. Naruto watched as Genma waited until the group of shinobi was in range before flipping through hand seals, a katon Ryukyu no Jutsu exploding from his mouth. Halt! In the name of the 3rd Hokage and the will of fire! The fire dragon went wide of the group, as standard procedure dictated, and the inclement shinobi pulled to a halt, coming to a stop on a branch 5 meters across from Genma, directly in Naruto's firing range. Yosh! Team 9 returning from a C-rank mission. ID 0984. The eccentric figure of Might Guy, clad in a Jonin vest and a green spandex, gave a blinding smile and thumbs up to Genma, who was checking the scroll that detailed the possible incoming missions from across their section of the border of Kusanokuni. Referencing the mission IDs, Genma nodded distractedly and gave Naruto the stand down signal. The blonde replaced his drawn knife and reappeared at Genma's side with a burst of speed. Yosh! Genma-kun, your partner is a shining example of the power of youth. Naruto assumed that it was the green-clad Jonin's way of expressing surprise at Naruto's speed. Uzumaki Naruto at your service, Maido-sen. Naruto introduced himself, knowing that Genma was too lazy for proper etiquette. Hearing quiet gasp from behind the Ryō Jonin, Naruto's eyes drifted to the 3 Genin positioned behind Guy. Naruto barely withheld a smirk at seeing the glowering figure of Hyuga Neji, the so-called genius of his original graduating class. Naruto had surpassed the branch family Hyuga at the tender age of 7, moving ahead 2 years at the academy in a move that both stunned and embarrassed the genius. Meanwhile, Might Guy's eyes had narrowed slightly in quiet contemplation as he surveyed the young Chunin, no doubt matching the circulating rumors and facts to Naruto's face. He broke into a toothy grin a moment later. Indeed, Naruto-kun, it is a pleasure to meet a shinobi so obvious in the flames of youthful fire. Naruto blinked hard at the bizarre man, not at all understanding what the man was getting at. From the corner of his eye, he spied Genma looking on blandly at the spectacle, not at all surprised by the Ryō Taijutsu master's interesting speech patterns. Yosh, Guy-sensei! A boisterous voice crowed from the group of Genin. Naruto had to crane his neck to see what looked to be a carbon copy of the Jonin in front of him. Minus the flak vest, he realized with a start that it was Rock Lee, the dead last of his original class at the academy. His eyes narrowed in confusion as he could sense almost no chakra from the spandex-clad Genin. Naruto-kan's flames of youth must burn most brightly if he is already a chunin. When we return to Konoha, I shall triple my training in order for my youthful fire to burn as brightly as Naruto-kan's. Come, away the golden delay. We come, team. We must return to Konoha post-haste. Guy exclaimed boisterously, another thumbs up directed at his squad of genin. If we cannot return to the village by sunset, I shall climb the Hokage monument with only my hands. Guy-sensei, Lee! Guy-sensei, Lee! Naruto assumed that his eyes were the size of small plates as he observed the student and sensei. His twin blue orbs glancing at the third genin, a rather cute girl with twin buns atop her head who he didn't recognize. He did his best to convey the message. Is this normal? He wasn't sure whether his message got through, but the girl seemed to nod sadly, looking like she wanted nothing more for the ground to swallow her whole up. The young blonde sympathized. Genma began, trying to re-establish sanity and looking more than slightly nauseous at the side of the mini guy. Everything seems to be going in order. The IDs check out, so you're free to go. Arigato Genma-kun and Naruto-kun. Yosh, team! Let us make hay! Guy was abruptly cut off as Naruto and Genma's eyes narrowed as they felt inbound chakra signatures, these moving far more quickly than Guy's team had and bleeding chakra like nobody's business. Naruto's eyes widened and his head snapped toward Genma as he felt more chakra enter the area much more. That's a group, the blonde began. Genma, can you get a read on them? The Senbon chewing special Jonin was way ahead of Naruto, his eyes already closed in concentration. No, there's too many of them. The chakras grouped together. He shook his head curtly. Neji! Guy's voice forced Naruto's attention to the group of genin once more. He noted absently that they were all standing at the ready, waiting for orders even though not fully understanding the situation. Guy had trained them well. Yes, sensei. Yes, sensei. Byakugan! It was slightly impressive that the Hyuga could activate the vaunted dojutsu without a hand seal to focus the chakra. Naruto watched impassively as the veins surrounded the all-white pupils bulged, indicating that the dojutsu was active. The first three shinobi are Lifnin, Anbu, Neji stated in a monotone. Naruto's, Genma, and Guy's head all snapped to attention at the statement. What were the Anbu doing in cross country? I count 21 inbound hostiles. All of them bear a Kusagaku headband. Genma summed it up rather nicely. Crap. A grim sort of determination settled over the three ranking ninja. They would have to back up the Anbu. Naruto quickly had twin kunai at the ready, bouncing on his toes in anticipation and to get the blood flowing. He had to refrain from slapping himself in the face a few times, as amped as he was. Guy was already dishing out orders, his former antics forgotten. Neji, Lee, Tenten, return to Konoha immediately. Alert the Hokage that the team of Anbu has been attacked outside Fire Country's borders. Hi, Sensei, the three genin chorused. Neji looking none too pleased at leaving a potential battle, before disappearing into the dense woodland. There was never any contention as to whether the genin would stay or go, just as there was no conflict about whether or not the three ranking shinobi would assist the inbound Anbu. They were Konoha nin, and Konoha protected their own. Ready? Guy asked, seemed to direct the question more toward Naruto than Genma. Naruto didn't allow himself to take offense. He was too concerned with the upcoming fight. He nodded curtly. Then let us burn with the flames of youth. As the three prepared to leap into battle, the inclement Anbu came into view, armor dented and scratched with the signs of battle. Maido-sen! One of the Anbu apparently recognized Guy. The Chunin formed a hand seal and the three sushi banshin formed on the ground. All thoughts fled from Naruto's mind. However, as the enemy shinobi entered his line of sight, he charged wide, in an acing pattern. He let Genma's Karyu and then incinerate the two unlucky shinobi who broke through the foliage first, before making his move. The third Kusanin met his demise at the business end of Naruto's first kunai, before the blonde jumped and acrobatically twisted over a step from a wakizashi. Capitalizing, Naruto used his momentum to slice open the throat of the sword-wielding shinobi on his way down. He landed in a crouch on a nearby tree branch, eyes scanning for more enemies. Spotting one, Naruto hurled his 2 kunai at the charging Kusanin. The woman ducked under them, however, before delivering a hard side kick to Naruto's chest with a snarl. Naruto winced at the impact. The woman kicked hard, but he had his wits about him in the moment and flipped through a short series of handseals. Sueten, Zesenzan, he exclaimed as he landed in a crouch on a nearby tree. A sharp line of water escaped his mouth, moving too fast for the kunoichi to react, and neatly sliced her head off in a spray of blood, taking part of the tree trunk with it. Naruto watched the head fall to the forest floor with dispassion, followed shortly by the rest of the body. The Sueten technique didn't take much chakra, requiring more control to properly sharpen the water, and it was one of the ninjutsu Naruto favored. It was fast, efficient, and deadly. The fact that his high Sueten affinity made it cost little chakra was simply a bonus. The blonde's danger senses howled bloody murder at him, and Naruto deftly dodged a kunai slash at the back of his neck by dropping into a crouch. The Kusa shinobi pressed his advantage, however, and Naruto quickly found himself on the defensive. Naruto lost the kunai in a hasty parry, backpedaling on the branch as the Kusanin pressed forward. The blonde smirked, however, as his position allowed him to see what the grass shinobi could not, and he hit the deck as a green blur bowled into the enemy ninja. "Leave Hurricane!" Madokai screamed to the heavens, his high-powered roundhouse kick shattering bone and sending the Kusa shinobi into a tree trunk. The spandex-clad Jonin barely spared Naruto a glance before moving on. Naruto dropped to the forest floor, quickly surveying the battle that was taking place in the treetop. Janma had his hands full with 2 ninja, and a shinobi and a kunoichi team member. Guy was dealing with 4 at once, and the Anbu team was taking cover on the ground and to Naruto's far left, apparently too weary to fight. One of the Anbu inclined their head sharply at him, and Naruto seemingly kawarimi'd with the sushi banshin as 2 Kusanin stabbed at his position, waiting until the shinobi's blades were locked inside the mud clone. Naruto resubstituted with his crumbling clone. Utilizing the element of surprise, Naruto swiftly swept the legs of one of the Kusanin, keeping his leg airborne, and delivered a hard rising kick to the ninja's chest and sending them spiraling. The blonde turned quickly, neatly sidestepping a downward slash from a katana, pinning the blade to the ground with his foot. Naruto stepped inside the man's guard and turned, delivering a backhanded punch to the man's face that sent him careening towards a tree. One seal created Sushi Banshin to deal with the first enemy shinobi, and Naruto unsealed a Fuma Shuriken within his flak vest. Acing it toward the recovering Kusanin, Naruto went through a short series of handsells before slipping into a Shanshin. The Kusanin shinobi managed to duck the Fuma Shuriken, but was unprepared for the second one in its shadow, and the giant throwing star embedded itself in the man's leg. The man screamed in pain, but had no time for much else as Naruto's outstretched hand plowed the man into a tree trunk less than 4 feet behind him. Lariat! Naruto had concentrated hard, channeling his residual chakra from his Shanshin into his outstretched arm and making the momentum-fueled clothesline into a deadly hammer blow. The Kusanin was dead before his back hit the tree trunk. Hearing footsteps, Naruto hastily ducked a stab that would have pierced his heart. The enemy ninja was unlucky, however, as their stab had embedded itself in their dead comrade, giving Naruto time to move. Snapping his arm out in a palm strike, Naruto's hand slammed into the Kusanin's nose, brutally snapping the bone and coaxing out a scream of pain. Heedless of the blood spurting out and coating his hand, Naruto quickly slit the ninja's throat. As the rapidly cooling corpse hit the forest floor, Naruto grimaced, taking in the slim figure and pretty face of the dead kunoichi. Call him a chauvinist, but he always felt bad after killing a woman. It made him feel dirty somehow. The woman had tried to kill him though. Glancing upward and taking in the flow of the battle, Naruto noticed that Genma was being headed into a corner by a full 3-man team. Forming 4 Sushi Banshin, Naruto handed out a high-yield explosive scroll to each and dispatched them with a gesture they all knew what to do. Leaping upwards, Naruto quickly made his way over to Genma, pulling a quick Kawarimi with a tree branch to get closer, fast. Pressing his immediate advantage, Naruto charged the nearest Kusanin and exchanged a quick series of taijutsu strikes, taking him away from his teammate. Blocking 2 heavy punches to the chest, Naruto dug under a haymaker and slammed his chakra-enhanced fist into the man's stomach. The dazed shinobi bent forward reflexively and promptly had his windpipe crushed by a blind-fast palm strike. His head impacted a kunai blade and his corpse fell in a boneless heap, blood flowing freely where Naruto had poked a hole in his skull. Turning towards Genma, whose senbon had just killed one of his 2 Kusanin, Naruto sped through 3 hand seals. Turning towards Genma, whose senbon had just killed one of his 2 Kusanin, Naruto sped through 3 hand seals. Genma, drop! The senbon chewing Tokubezu Johnny hit the deck. As the Sueten Tepodama hurtled through the space his body had just occupied. The Kusanin ninja took the water bullet to the chest and was sent hurtling into open air. 3 accurate shuriken from Genma ended the man's existence, and the body fell into the forest floor. Turning to Naruto, the special Jonin nodded his head in thanks before starting in surprise as Guy reappeared in between them, his face grim. We set? Hi, Naruto-kan. Genma had no time to ponder the byplay as the 2 full teams, angry and battered, surrounded them, weapons drawn. You Konoha scum! You'll pay dearly for crossing Kusagaku! One of the shinobi yelled, his comrade snarling in approval. Naruto scoffed audibly. You talk too much, was all he said before grabbing Genma, making one hand seal and disappearing in a lift junction with Guy a split second behind. The Kusanin had no time to ponder the bronze parting shot as the genjutsu covering 4 high-yield explosive scrolls collapsed and the tags were activated. The 3 Konoha shinobi landed near the battered and bruised Anbu team, the one conscious member using the medical jutsu to heal his comrades. As the explosive tags incinerate the Kusa ninjas, taking 50 square feet of the forest with them. We miss any? Naruto asked Genma. He watched the flaming trees top both in Sueten jutsu at the ready to stop the flames from spreading. The spandex-clad Jonin's face was grim. One and most unyouthful shinobi fled our fight. He made for the border. Naruto grimaced. Fantastic. Naruto, the political backlash that would be generated by the Anbu's presence in a foreign country would be bad enough. But to have an eyewitness claiming to be attacked by 3 non-involved Konoha ninja, it didn't matter if Naruto, Genma and Guy were merely acting in defense of their comrade. Kusagaku would view the incident as a direct attack upon an allied nation, violating every treaty ever signed between Konoha and Kusa. One thing is certain, Naruto thought with a pained expression. Heads are gonna roll. Hand seals formed at a blinding pace, and he released a torrent of water to try to extinguish the ravenous fire. Well, that's the end. What do you think Naruto meant when he said heads would be rolling? Was he referring to the enemy or his own? What does the future hold for Naruto? Well, that's for me to know and for you to guess. Now that I think about it, I don't know myself. Well, let's find out together, friend. Find out next time on Rooster's What Ifs. Yeah.